Today I'm going to be showing you how to drive a manual transmission car, and one of the most significant differences between a manual transmission car and an automatic transmission are, instead of having two gas pedals, the brake and the gas, there are three. This is the clutch, and then the brake, and then the gas. In a manual transmission car, this is where the gear shifter is located. This is the parking brake, and this pedal on the far left is the clutch. This is the brake. This is the gas. In order to start a manual transmission car, you push the clutch all the way in, and the clutch is, again, the pedal on the far left. After having the clutch all the way in, the car starts. If you were to try and start the car without the clutch pushed all the way in, it wouldn't even turn over. Doesn't even make a noise. So it's mandatory that the clutch is in at all times. Whenever you have the car running, the clutch needs to be in unless you're moving. In a manual transmission car, this is the gear shifter, and on the top it'll show you whichever gears there are. So 1 is at the top here, straight down is 2nd, in the middle of the top is 3rd, straight down is 4th, and then the far right is 5th, and the far right bottom is reverse. When you're parking a manual transmission car, since there isn't a park gear, when you stop and you shift it into first and you turn the car off, the car may roll. That's why you always put the parking brake on when you stop driving. When you start driving, the clutch and the gas are both kind of what keeps the car running. So when you push the gas in, you want to push the gas in just as much as you're letting the clutch off. So it's a even distribution between gas and clutch. So the car's in first right now, and I'm going to slowly push the gas in and let the clutch out at the same time. And when that happens, the car starts to move, and eventually I can just keep my foot on the gas and let my foot off the clutch. But once you hear the engine start to max out in a certain gear like it is now, you push the clutch all the way in and you take your foot off the gas and you shift down to 2nd gear, and the engine tends to max out at a certain gear at around 3,000 RPMs. So when I'm driving, instead of looking at the speed of a certain gear, I tend to look at the RPMs. And in 2nd gear, you could drive between 10 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour before you need to shift to 3rd gear. When driving a manual transmission, you can also use the clutch to slow down. So when I need to stop at this stop sign, I downshift to 2nd gear, and I push the brake, and as I push the brake, I let the clutch out a little bit, and when the clutch is getting let out, it's slowing the car down because it's in a lower gear than the speed is. So both brake and clutch are slowing the car down. And now to restart, the car's back in 1st gear, and I let the clutch out and push the gas in. You can hear the engine start to get louder and louder, and once it kind of stays monotone at a certain sound, you can tell that you might need to shift. So just by ear you could shift instead of looking at RPMs. Here's a different view of what my feet might look like when I'm driving a manual transmission car. And every car is going to be different. This car has a 4-cylinder engine, and maybe another manual transmission car has a bigger engine, so the RPMs that you would shift at wouldn't be the same. But with this car, I shift around 3,000 RPMs. And so the transition between being at a complete stop and restarting the car, the clutch will be always all the way in when you're stopped, even if the car is running. Because if you let the clutch out on accident and you're stopped and the car is running, the car will stall. So while you're stopped, the clutch needs to be all the way in. And when you start again, you push the gas in, the far right pedal, just as much as you're letting out the left pedal. That way the car doesn't stall and the engine keeps on running. And once this car's engine reaches about 3,000 RPMs, I'm able to push the clutch back in, shift down to second gear, and while I'm doing this, my other foot is off the gas. And once I'm in second gear, I can let my foot off the clutch and push in my right foot on the gas and keep going and shift accordingly to how fast I'm going.